Yep. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cheltenham Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee. My name is Paul Jones, I'm Deputy Chief Executive. But before we start the normal business, I'd like to ask for nominations for Chair of this committee, please.
Could I please nominate Jan? Thank you.
Okay, can I put that to the vote, please? All those in favour of nominating Councillor Jan Foster? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Foster, would you like to come and take the chairs, please?
Welcome, everybody, to this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Jan Foster, and I am acting as substitute on this committee for Councillor Joy and have been elected Chair. I would like to thank Councillor Chellan for chairing the recent meetings in Councillor Joy's absence. The meeting is being streamed live to the Cheltenham Borough Council YouTube channel. Please note, fire alarm test is not expected, so if the alarm does sound, please make your way to the nearest fire exit. So that brings us to apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Joy and Councillor Beale. Item number 2, have any members got any interests they wish to declare? No. Item 3, do any members have any comments on the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of May? And just as a reminder, any comments should relate to the accuracy of the minutes. No? In that case, I move that members approve the minutes of the meeting held on 19th of May. Can I please have a show of hands? Thank you. That's carried. So do I now sign? Sorry. Where do I sign? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, item number 4, public and member questions. None have been received. Item number 5, appointment of co-optees to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Members will be aware that the Council recently went out to recruit 2 Cheltenham residents to join Overview and Scrutiny Committee as independent members for a period of 4 years. I'm pleased to welcome Margaret Chung and Harry Booty to their first meeting, and I would like to progress to their formal appointment as independent members of the committee by a show of hands. Can you please raise your hands if you're agreeing? Thank you. Thank you, and big thanks to Margaret and Harry for volunteering for this important role. We look forward to having you on board. You are, of course, most welcome to ask questions or contribute to the items today, but we understand if you would prefer to just observe this first meeting. Okay. Item number 6, Cabinet briefing. An update from the Cabinet on key issues for Cabinet members which may be of interest to Overview and Scrutiny and may inform the work plan. So I invite Councillor Jeffreys, Deputy Leader, to address the committee.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, whilst I'm deputising for Rowena, who's not here, I'll put on record my thanks to Harry and Margaret for joining us, putting yourselves forward on behalf of the community. It's really welcome, so thank you. Chair, I've not got much. I never do when I'm deputising for leader, who recently spent time at the LGA conference, is now spending some family time. But you'll all be aware that following the Gloucester City Council's meeting, that now we're all aligned about selling of the airport. That was a unanimous vote. So there were a couple of highlights that the leader wanted me to share with you, which was very interesting. So as part of the process, you may say, that they've gone through, it was very interesting to note that the various bidders were very keen, and the successful bidder was very keen on social value and maximising that social value, which I thought didn't necessarily, in case it hadn't been translated across in any of the communications. There were some interesting communications and some comms went out on this topic, and I followed some of that. Interesting that there was some negativity out there, which I think we're always going to get. But just to put on record again that the intention of this is to be operated as an airport, because people have been speculating again, which is sad, really, because I think that the bid was very strong in terms of that investment, not only for the surrounding businesses, but actually aviation-related businesses, which I think was very much what we were looking for when we first went out on this. I could go into the detail of the depth of information that was provided, but I just want to give members some reassurance they're entering into a 12-month due diligence period. And obviously, I presume then that the leader will update accordingly after that and as we go through. Other than that, I've got nothing else to update ONS members with. So I'll hand back, Chair. I'm not sure when my cabinet colleagues are on, but thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Yes, here to provide an update on where we are with the Hacksold Recycling Centre, which members will recall is subject to a prolonged closure from January 25, largely as a result of the Environment Agency requiring expenditure in excess of £1 million for the site to continue in a safe fashion. Not to mention the £600,000 gross running costs, and also the fact that the facility really is a responsibility of the county council to provide rather than the borough council. So since the prolonged closure, there's obviously been a change of administration at Shire Hall. The previous administration having said publicly that it was not their intention to invest that money in the facility and therefore to take it on. Now, the new administration obviously will take a little bit of time to get their feet under the table, so to speak, but we have had conversations with the County Council, and we have a meeting arranged for the beginning of August, which will involve members of Gloucester County Council, officers and cabinet member, and likewise myself and officers from Cheltenham Borough, to meet at the Swindon Road site to properly understand the site and what future it may have and what ideas Gloucestershire County Council may have for its use going forward. In terms of what else we've been doing, obviously since the closure, it's been an important time for us to evaluate what's been going on as a consequence of the closure. And Gloucestershire County Council would point out that they provide two other facilities within a reasonable distance of Cheltenham. The Foss Cross site at Cirencester Road is 20 minutes away from the Cheltenham Kings side of town, and Wingwall Farm is 5 miles away. So there are, they would argue, facilities very relatively close by. And in that period, Wingwall Farm has seen a 26% increase in usage. In June, a staggering 14,500 customers visited Wingwall Farm. Its capacity is a little over 15,000, so it's running at 95% capacity. But clearly, as a consequence of the HRC closure, a lot of people are taking their non-recyclable waste to Wingwall Farm, which is what we hoped would happen. As I say, there will be a meeting with Gloucestershire County Council. Let's not forget that 95% of all our recycling is done at the curbside. And as a borough, we are committed to expanding that with flexible plastic and Tetra Paks. So that will be a real bonus. And on top of that, we are looking to try and expand the number of bring sites in the town. Particularly, I'm keen to reintroduce one at Henrietta Street, which would serve the residents most affected by the closure of the HRC recycling point. So that's something we're looking at, increasing that capacity. And we've also increased the cleansing of those sites. I will talk a little bit about fly tipping, and then I'll shut up and open it to any questions. So there was obviously a concern about an increase in fly tipping, and it is sadly the case that across the country and across the county, fly tipping is increasing. But I've done some analysis of the stats that I've been given. And so in the year March 24 to March 25, there was a 40% increase in fly tipping. And obviously for most of that period, the HRC was open. In the period from January 24 to January 25, in other words, before the closure of the HRC, that specific period, the increase in fly tipping was 38%. And it's fair to say that since the closure, the increase has been at 45%. So we were running at 40% standard, but when you closed it, we went up to 45%. So there's been a marginal increase in fly tipping in that time. And that, of course, is disappointing. And that is no excuse. The closure of the HRC is no excuse for anybody to break the law and resort to fly tipping. And for me, it's really important that the council takes a robust attitude towards prosecutions. And that's something that we will be working on. I think we need to send a very strong message that this will not be acceptable behaviour. So that's where we are at the moment. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baker. I'm sorry, I didn't give time for questions also to Councillor Jeffreys. So is it okay if we take, has anyone got any, if we do Councillor Jeffreys first, has anyone got any questions? No? Moving on then, has anyone got any questions for Councillor Baker?
Just to say that in June, I had lots of complaints from residents about not being able to get into Wigmore Farm. If it is currently at 90%, 95% capacity, is there anything we can do in the short term to increase that capacity? Because if it's not there, people might resort to fly tipping even more, mightn't they? And 95% is definitely capacity.
No, I absolutely agree. That's why these figures are really important to see. So running at 95%, they still assure me that there are slots available on a day-by-day basis, but clearly they will be limited. I don't think many people realise how close the Foss Way facility is actually. I know it's Cirencester, but if you're going from the south or east side of town, by the time you've gone all the way across town to where the HRC was or Wigmore Farm, it would be easier to go to the Foss Way site. So I think it's important that we promote that. But no, certainly, and as well as what you just said, we're going to have thousands and thousands of new houses built on that side of town. So the capacity of Wigmore Farm is really, really important, and we need to understand what Shire Hall County Council plan to do with that capacity, because otherwise, as you say, what will happen is people will get fed up.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Day was next, I think.
Thank you. Well, actually, Councillor Chandler kind of took the words out of my mouth, so to speak. But I just wonder on the fly tipping, I mean, I totally agree. You know, there's no excuse for it. And I totally agree a robust approach should be taken. I wondered if it's possible to look at the analysis on a sort of a geographic basis and whether that would give any indication of a change in patterns or, you know, perhaps help target enforcement action, you know, but there's absolutely no excuse though.
I have to say, all I got is the bare data at the moment. I haven't got, I can't really help you with where that is happening at the moment. Clearly we will have that, and that will help us to pick hotspots and things like that.
Thank you. Councillor Chellan.
Yes, going back to the idea of maybe Wigmore Farm being developed, particularly in the light of new housing and such like, lots of people in my ward have been complaining about the state of it, basically, that it's just, the road up to it is horrible, the people aren't as friendly there, and that it's just, if you can have a nice experience at a tip, it's not as nice as the HRC. So it seems to me that some of that is sort of cosmetic and can be improved, maybe as a quicker win, actually.
Yeah, I have to say the customer experience at the HRC was always first class. The staff there was superb. All I can do is take back your comments about Wigmore Farm, and so the officers at GCC are aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. If there are no more questions, then we'll move on to item 7. I would like to welcome Bruce Gregory, Managing Director of Hub 8, and Andrew Ruffin, the CEO of Plexal. Members will be aware that a supplement to the agenda was published on Friday regarding the financial information. Should members wish to discuss any element of this in particular, we will have to enter exempt session. Do councillors want to discuss? Do we have to?
Yeah,
So,
I'm not sure your question we would have to go into exempt session for, but at the moment, we'll leave it in because it's not specific figures you're talking about.
okay. Thank you. So I'll hand over to Bruce Gregory and Andrew Ruffin.
Hello, good evening, and yes, thank you for welcoming us to the session this evening. So yeah, I should introduce myself. So Bruce Gregory, Managing Director of Hub 8. We're very proud to publish the impact report for the first year of operation of the MX. I think as an overview, we're very proud of the impact that it's had, particularly from a social aspect. We've seen really significant changes to how people enjoy the area surrounding the MX, which we class as the Minster Gardens. We see it as a real jewel in the crown for the town and the town centre. It's really our historic core. You know, St Mary's and the Minster is the oldest building in the town, and I think one of the goals of the MX was really to bring new vibrancy and life to that part of the town. And I can say with real personal experience now that we've achieved that, which I'm delighted about. From a commercial standpoint, which is also an important marker in terms of how the MX performs, I think we're also really satisfied with where we are. We're seeing a vibrant community of businesses that use it. We've got some very large tech companies that are members to startups, SMEs, and everything in between. So we've got a broad community of companies that are mainly within the technology sector, but we're seeing a much broader digital and creative membership too. I think what we've also seen, particularly since the cafe opened, so the cafe opened in January this year, which is later than we would have hoped, but I think having that opened has really seen, again, new life and vibrancy to the area. And I think another point to highlight is the relationships we're making within the community. We work very closely with the church now. We were delighted to host a joint Christmas carol service with them, and that will become very much a fixture in our calendar and how we can work more closely with their community too. We're seeing additional support from the church. There are now moments where it's open from 1 to 1:30 every Tuesday, which is a new service that the church is providing, hopefully with the additional footfall that we're seeing within the area. And I think more importantly, really excited to speak with you all and answer any questions that you have on the report.
Thank you, Bruce, and good evening, everyone. I'm Andrew Rowan, Chief Executive of Plexel, which is the majority shareholder of the company that trades as Hub8. And I wanted to overlay Bruce's comments just to recognise the journey that we have collectively been on with the MX. So those of you who are in this chamber in years gone by will have noted the difficult development programme that the MX had, both in terms of time and budget. And we thank you all for the continued support around getting the facility to open that then allowed us the last 12 months to be able to deliver the impact that has only just started. I must say as well that I share Bruce's pride and excitement around what now we can look forward to is several decades worth of value that can be created from the investment that this council has collectively decided to make. I think what we're seeing now in the first year of this impact, both the social and economic proof points that we can be confident that the business model suggested will carry through to success. But I think fundamentally, I speak on behalf of Bruce and I here, is that we're personally very invested in this journey, and we intend to see it out until it is both a social and economic and a success for this town.
Thank you very much, Andrew and Bruce. Have any councillors any further questions subsequent to the answers provided to those submitted in advance? No? Then do any members have any questions? No? Oh yes, Councillor Day.
Well, the first bit isn't really a question. It's just say thank you very much for your time showing me around the building a couple of weeks ago now, I think, possibly. And what I would say is I was amazed at just as I said at the time, just how clean and how incredibly well maintained the building is, given it's been open, for almost a year now. But you would think it opened yesterday. It's in really immaculate condition, and I think that all that will do is attract your current tenants to stay and new tenants in. The question I have is just for everybody's benefit. I mean, you are, on the face of it, I'm sure if somebody was given a price, it would look like a premium product because so much is included in that price. And I just wonder if you could outline just if somebody Googled, empty office floor in Cheltenham compared to yours, just how once you take into account of everything you get within that price at the MX, how that gap actually narrows, between those two options.
Thanks, Councillor Day. We equally enjoyed the time that you were very, very kind to give up to visit the premises. So in commercial real estate, traditionally, the model as to how a tenant would rent a property, whether that be a small room or a very big office, would tend to be priced on a per square foot basis. And that would be a tenant commits to a landlord for a particular term, the size of their property, and then multiplied by a per square foot cost. Now, typically in Cheltenham, depending on the quality of the facility, you might see somewhere between £20 per square foot all the way through to maybe £35 per square foot at the very premium end. Now, in that model, what the tenant then takes on to pay on top of the £35 or £20 per square foot is a service charge, which may well cost £10 per square foot or somewhere of that order. Business rates, which currently may be somewhere between £5 and £7 per square foot. They would need to hire reception staff if that were their choosing, perhaps security staff. They'd have to install internet infrastructure. They'd have to pay their utilities bills. They'd have to have cleaning staff to come in order to maintain the quality of the facility. Now, I won't labour this point, but the series of layers of costs that would sit on top of what at first glance is the market rate for the product. Now, the marketplace that Bruce and I find ourselves in is more one of what would be described as flexible workspace. And what that tends to is a more inclusive cost to the tenant. We call them members, but effectively a tenant, whereby we trade off the economies of scale that we can present in a building of that size for an all-inclusive price. Now, typically where our current pricing for the MX sits is around about £70 per square foot equivalent, which I think would be broadly equivalent with what a normal tenant would pay given that cost makeup I just referenced. But we get, in our model, to be able to generate a profit as a result of our economies of scale. So there is a tension in this marketplace because it is relatively commoditized and competitive, is that you can't push price too far to the point it's unacceptable, otherwise you'll see significant churn. So you've got to keep this tension right between creating a profitable business model, especially in light of the commercial arrangements that we have commitments to this council for, but also creating a product that's flexible enough that it drives real value to the customer.
Thank you very much both for that discussion. We're now going to go into exempt session for Councillor Smith's question. So I have to read this. That in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining agenda items, as it is likely that, in view of the nature of the business to be transacted or the nature of the proceedings, if members of the public are present, there will be disclosed to them exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 and 2, part 1, schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, namely paragraph 3, information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information.
Just wait. Exempt session. We'll carry on. Yeah.
So we're going back out of
we are now.
exempt session.
Yeah, we're back.
Right. So that brings us to item 8. There have been no meetings of the other scrutiny groups. These are all due to take place later in July. And item number 9, there are currently no active scrutiny task groups. Item number 10, review of scrutiny work plan. Do any members have any comments about the work plan? No? Okay. So the date of the next meeting, I don't have anything urgent to say, sorry, item 12. The date of the next meeting will be held on the 8th of September 2025. Date for your diaries. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.